Hello.
Mike was
Can you hear me?
muted.
Oh,
Now I'm
there we go.
live.
That's better. There we go. That's better.
Awesome. Welcome to Beyond Disclosure Podcast, Episode 3.
Number 3, baby. Lucky number.
I'm Corey.
I'm Lem. Well done.
And we talk UFOs. couple
Down under.
of Aussies.
Yeah.
Rocking the UFO chat, representing Australia. Thanks for joining.
And look, Australia, get more involved.
Yeah.
We're Five Eyes, we've got a stake in this, so.
Yep.
And look, I'll just quickly point out before we even start, Corey and I was chatting backstage on this thing, and at some point we need to talk about Pine Gap. If you don't know what Pine Gap is, just look up Pine Gap, UFOs, whatever. That's a topic for another time, but I just thought I'd state that now.
Yeah. If anyone knows anything about Pine Gap that watches this, please send us a message.
Absolutely.
Give us some tips on what you think might be going on out there.
And we have actually had tips from people in comments and chats and stuff. It's like for government people, that kind of stuff. So it's been cool.
Yeah, it is. So yeah, hopefully we can build more people to jump in and chat and give us more tips. And if you do watch this, like it and subscribe, please, as you do on YouTube.
Yeah, the old YouTube thing.
Before this started, I actually got booted. I lost my connection. But I was able to fire this thing back up and join straight back in, and I was worried that you'd lost connection. So if it does happen again, you've just got to run solo.
Yeah, all right. Well, I can do that. Well, and as I said, it was actually I thought something happened there, and it ran fine when you came back. So
you're in the studio. You can pull out an axe and
yeah, I'll play something along.
Nice. Yeah. So tonight we're going to talk about. There's some really interesting, cool things to talk about. Lou Elizondo has been making some cool comments on Twitter. So I just wanted to look at Twitter X. Anymore. Sorry, yeah.
Thanks, Elon.
Formerly known as. So we'll have a look at a tweet or two by Lou and just talk about what he might be up to, what he might know. And then we were going to talk about probably this is really interesting, the whole consciousness discussion,
the aspect of it, yeah,
the aspect of the consciousness discussion, and there's a bit of talk about remote viewing again lately, and we want to pick up on some of those that topic and related topics.
Well, and I think they are heavily related, especially consciousness and remote viewing. It's and then the UFO /UAP topic. They go hand in hand.
Yeah, and then some disinformation stuff too.
Yeah, and we live in the age of disinformation. We don't have to start there, but I mean, it's on everyone's lips. And it's I don't know if I told you, Corey, but I've used ChatGPT a few times and just speculated a few questions to it, and it actually gave me a very good answer in regards to modern disinformation campaigns, as far as I can make out. But we can come to that later. I think we can start with maybe, start with how we were saying.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we'll talk about Lou Elizondo, I guess.
Yeah, I was going to say, you want to get into the Lou stuff?
Yeah.
Oh, and quickly, just before, I did want to say this, and I didn't get a link or anything. I apologize. But I found a really good site called Disclosure Diaries, I think it's called. Let me just see if I can find it quickly. And it's really good, like, weekly thing about what's been happening.
Oh, excellent.
Actually, I'll just share it with you. Yep, here I found it.
You might be able to share it in the comments to Lem, or share it to me, and
I'll share it to you. Where am I? Here we go. Bloody
yeah,
little rundown of what's been happening. They mentioned the Lou stuff. There was, I don't know if you've been following the US politics, but here's some news straight away. They got a skiff.
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh, I hadn't heard that.
Yeah. So Burchett, one other member, from what I've heard, is going to get a skiff, 2 skiffs, possibly definitely one skiff, possibly 2 skiffs. The first skiff seems to be just document information, and I dare say it's going to be Burchett and either Gates or probably Luna. It's probably going to be Luna. And the second one will involve witnesses, hopefully, because this is further to what I've heard. Because I saw a Burchett, he's always skeptical about this kind of stuff, get interviewed, and he said, "Yeah, we got a skiff. We'll see what we get out of it." But the second one, hopefully, will include maybe the Inspector General, maybe Grush, and maybe first-hand witnesses. Like the second one will be, yeah, and the whole with the Speaker of the House thing. I was very, very skeptical about Jim Jordan being anywhere near some kind of disclosure speaker. But having said that, and I mean, look, it could just be a party thing, but Luna and Burchett have come out and said, no, we're quietly confident. I don't say that, but how it reads is that we're quietly confident that Jim Jordan will be slightly friendly to the UAP topic. So we'll have to see how that plays out.
Awesome.
But that's some new development. Yeah.
That's huge news. Yeah. Where did you hear that? Where did you hear that one?
I think it was, I just saw it on X.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. That's great news. Yeah. Why get one skiff when you can get 2?
Yeah, exactly. And if they can get actual first-handers in there, then that's really solid, because they're the guys who will bring it out.
So they can subpoena other people to go into the
No. So the skiff is just certain people. It's like, okay, we've got these people who have clearances. You now have the clearance to get into here.
Those first-hand witnesses that you said might be going in, how do they volunteer to go in? They're volunteering.
Yeah. Well, they're volunteers to go in. It'd be like Rush going in.
Yeah.
But they can hear everything. Like, where Grush couldn't say, okay, I know the people and the place. Then the Congress people can have the people and the place. If they have the people and the place, this is what Matt Getz and Luna and Burchett did a while ago, I think, when they went down to Elgin Air Force and they got stonewalled. And they said, you've got to work out, you've got to realize how power flows in America. They made some calls to the White House, and it's like, yeah, they got to see. So imagine if those 3, and including Democrats and Congress people, got together, went down to the places that Grush named and to the people who Grush named and said, okay, you got to tell us. If you're not going to tell us, they can do what's called a field hearing, I think, where they'll put people under oath right then and there. And it's like, you got to answer. So I think basically, it's almost leading to that kind of thing, field hearings with subpoena power on the spot. We're going to Elgin. We're going to Right Pat. We're going to fucking Salt Lake.
Yeah, right.
Groom Lake. Sorry, Groom Lake.
Yep. Well, that would be amazing if that's what's coming. Yeah, but in the skiff, no limits. You can just
it's top clearance. Yeah, it's top clearance. It's everything. It's like leave every bit of take all. You got to go through metal detectors, bug detectors, all that kind of stuff.
Yep, it's in like a Faraday field chamber.
Yep, absolutely, in a Faraday chamber. Yep.
Yeah. So yeah.
So that's good news. And it's the right guys, hopefully. And I have they've been performing bloody well. So I'd like to hope that they can keep at it. Tim Burchett seems like he's a pretty genuine guy when it comes to this kind of stuff.
Yeah, I know you watched the Burchett video with Sean Ryan.
Oh, yeah, with Sean Ryan. That was very interesting, and that's where I kind of want to touch on very later the disinformation stuff. But I think Burchard's always been painted as a bit of an outsider. He always claims like he's the 435th most powerful member of Congress, and I think there's 435 members of Congress, so he's basically considered a weirdo. And I don't agree with everything he's got to say. I looked up his political history, and I try to stay out of politics. But on this issue alone, he's shown incredible courage and leadership, and good on him. And he's doing it for pretty much all the right reasons. So,
Excellent. All right. Well, we'll share Lou's tweet. And
I was going to say, let's get onto some Lou.
How's that working?
It's coming. Yeah, there we go. And look, it's we were talking about this before. I put it to Corey. Like, what do you guys think of Lou? I don't know. What's your read on Lou? I was saying to Corey, I was pretty skeptical about Lou at the start. I was like, yeah, he's a former intelligence guy, blah blah blah. Tom DeLonge, blah blah blah. But I don't know. As time goes on, he seemed a little bit more solid. I don't know.
Yeah. It's you messaged me that the other day when I said we should talk a bit about Lou's tweets. He messaged me and said, what do you think? Do we trust Lou? Can you trust Lou? And I think I replied, I don't know if you can trust anyone.
Well, and that's a very good point. That's an excellent point.
Yeah, it's hard to know. Like, you've got to. There's guys that appear to be doing the right thing, doing the hard work. Let's hope that they're doing it for the right reasons. That's the real question. Or that, mate, I think people would be tied up in disinformation that they're not aware that they're tied up in disinformation campaign.
That absolutely happens.
They believe they're doing the right thing. They're busting their balls to, get disclosure moving forward, but they're being fed bad information.
Yeah, I was going to say, when we want to really get to the topic, we'll talk about the Benowitz stuff. So that's exactly what that is.
Yeah, there's also.
But anyway, should we read? Go ahead and read.
Yeah, let's. What's Lou say? Howdy, folks. Just a quick update for you to consider. Please know that ongoing efforts are underway that will reveal themselves by early to mid 2024. At the risk of haters trying to sabotage our efforts, I can't be precise at this time. But if you have learned anything over the last 5 years, I never make empty promises. Trust me, it will be worth it. Special thanks, Chris Mellon and Jay Stratton.
With two big names at the end too, right?
Yeah. So that's a pretty big statement there. Hang tight. Big things that will reveal themselves early to mid 2024. They're being careful so they don't get derailed.
Look, Lou's former intelligence, and I dare say he's pretty well schooled in counterintelligence, so they know. Yeah, it's a complex game, that stuff.
It makes me wonder too why. I guess it is important to be public about when you're trying to push a subject like UFO disclosure and make it acceptable in the
you have to get to that level. You have to. If you don't get to that level, you're gone. I mean, this is a cliche, but obviously Lou knows. Imagine if Lou Elizondo died tomorrow. There would be a shitstorm of speculation, an absolute crazy storm of speculation. Everyone would go crazy. But I mean, if the real whistleblower who is coming down the line died tomorrow, no one knows, right? So there's an element of you got to make yourself public. I wonder if Grush, he was feeling pressure. He said there was backlash against him. I wonder if that's why I was like, that's it, I'm going public, because otherwise I can't continue on down this line.
Why has Lou Elizondo, I've never heard him talk about this, but why did he go public on disclosure? What's
because he was like he thought the public should know. He was just one of those guys. He was a bit like Grush, I guess. Like, yeah, but there's too much secrecy. Well, and so he was ATIP, right? That was his
yeah,
thing.
yeah.
Harry Reid started ATIP. Harry Reid sourced the funding for ATIP. So, I mean, Harry Reid's old school. I mean, if you've ever been following the UAP topic or UFO topic for any amount of time, you'll know the name Harry Reid, senator for the US. He is old school involved in this.
Yeah.
So that I think that probably
didn't he have something to do with Skinwalker Ranch and Bigelow and all of that?
He's been across it all. Harry Reid's pretty well. Sadly to say, I don't even know if he's still alive, but he has been across it all. Yeah. And it was, I only learned that he was the one who got the funding for ATIP a year or two ago. I was like, I was a little bit surprised, but not too surprised. It's like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So I think there's been and I think I've said this. I don't know if we've said this before in the podcast, but there's definitely factions behind the scenes. Some factions want parts of this to come out. Some factions want none of this to come out. Some factions want all of this. Very few factions want all of this to come out. And we're experiencing a mesh of all of those things.
Yeah. I heard Ross Coulthart recently say that the against disclosure faction vastly outnumbers the pro disclosure.
Yeah, and always have, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but it looks like it's still happening.
Well, and then that's like, again, maybe we won't talk about it this episode, but there seems to be this weird deadline, right? It's everyone who's in the space. I've heard too many times that there's 24, 25, 26, 27. It can't go much beyond those sort of figures. Stuff is coming out.
Yeah. And I do want to talk about this more too. Because what's happening now, like with the next topic that we're going to talk about, it seems like it's I want to talk about it later. So we'll get there. Otherwise I'm going to go down a rabbit hole and then go off on a tangent. But yeah, it's good to see Lou saying these things publicly with confidence, and reinstating, trust me, I never let you down.
I mean, famous last words though, right?
Yeah. Well, but famous last words. But I think.
But also, I think Christopher Mellon, Jay Stratton, they're good people to be involved with.
Yeah. I think they've got something they know. I think something's in the bag that's coming forward early 2024 that's probably going to take it to the next level.
Yeah, and I can understand with them being gun show, like people are like, oh, why do you hint at this kind of stuff? It's like, if you thought that you could die from this, which apparently people have, then maybe you would be a bit gun shy about saying, maybe you would be more like, yep, I've got something to tell you, but I need to get to this level where I'm secure or something happens and I know it's going to be okay for me to tell you about it. It's like people giving Ross crap about, why doesn't he just say where the big UFO is? Or why doesn't he just say this? Or why doesn't he say that? It's journalism. You protect your sources. You don't get sources unless you protect your sources. You foul one source, everyone knows. You don't get another source. You kill
Yep.
yourself as a journalist. It's like,
Yep.
it's very basic. I don't know how people don't understand that.
Yeah. Yeah. And it must be painful. It must be painful
Oh,
for those journalists to have to repeat that over and over again in their
yeah.
defense. I can't say anything. I know a lot, but I can't say anything.
Yeah.
That must be frustrating because you
And
know
yeah,
people. Yeah, you
we
know
get to
people are
speculate
getting
freely.
impatient. People get impatient.
Yeah.
Then
And we're impatient.
and they must listen to some of the speculation, like us guys talking about what, trying to decipher what they're meaning in their tweets or their comments,
Yeah.
and probably rolling their eyes most of the time.
Yeah.
These guys
Totally
have
missed the point.
But I mean, this is the nature of the subject. This is the journey, and I think let's talk about the next subject, because
All right. Well, I was going to say, because that is a good segue, because it's literally what we were just talking about with, and let's just say we've got the remote viewing is what we're going to be talking about. And it's linked to consciousness and it's linked to UFOs.
Yeah. And it is a journey. It feels like there is there's a stream of this. To me, this is my journey, right? The more I can see the narrative shifting a little bit towards consciousness, it has gradually more and more, and there seems to be gaining a little bit more momentum in the last couple of weeks. Even this discussion of the involvement of consciousness and how we understand reality.
Yeah, or what reality is. What we perceive versus what reality is.
Yeah, and I almost feel like, from my own personal perspective, that this is where it's where I'm riding a current now down a stream of, and this is the weird nature of reality and my journey and my perception and your, the way that you see this. But yeah, I think it's an individual experience for everyone. I mean, is that what reality might all be about? It's perception, right? It's
well, it's what's the old it's the old Bill Hicks thing. It's like, we're all one consciousness experiencing itself subjectively. Life is but a dream, and we're the imagination of ourselves. Good night, and here's Tom with the weather. So, but that's pretty much it, and then, as much as that's a joke, Bill Hicks was kind of a prophet sort of thing, and even now, like that's been talked about in Eastern philosophy for ever. And Western philosophy sort of been around about that. All religions come back to an ultimate consciousness. Almost all religions. So it's always been a part of humans. So well, should we jump over to remote viewing?
Well, yeah, remote viewing is sort of coming up a bit again. I mean, it's got a big history with Project Stargate, and that seems to be getting talked about a bit lately. Again, it's coming up a lot of things that I'm seeing.
Before that, just to be historically accurate, before Project Stargate was, I remember it was the SRI, Standard Research Institute program, that bore Stargate, which was a government program. And a number of people were involved. Ingo Swann, Kit Green, rest of the names. Hal Puthoff was in there. Joseph McGonigal, Pat Price. The main guy who put it together eludes me. What's his name?
And
Oh, Russell
Yeah,
Targ.
Russell Targ. Yeah,
Russell Targ was one of the main guys.
Yeah, this I know. They talked about remote viewing on. I was at the airport the other day, going from Sydney back to the Gold Coast, and I was sitting in the airport waiting for a plane, and trying to catch up on some news, and I seen the Weaponized podcast did.
Oh yeah,
Jeremy Corbell, George Knapp,
and George
most
Knapp.
recent episode, and
Was
they
that with some? I can't remember the guy's name. Started with L. His surname Laclastic. It was weird.
Hang on, I'll bring it up.
I think I may have seen it.
And where is it? It's a guy, Chris Ramsey. This is the guy, Chris Ramsey.
Oh no, it's not. That's not the one I was thinking of.
Yeah, so they interviewed Chris Ramsey. Were you thinking of John Lear? That was a couple.
No, not John Lear. There's a weird one. Anyway, forget that.
Yeah, John Lear. That you might want to bring him up when we talk about disinformation, because he might be a part of it. But this guy, Chris Ramsey, he's got this channel on YouTube, Area 52 Investigations. But they interviewed this guy, and I'm like, what the heck? Because I know of Chris Ramsey because I started getting into cardistry a couple of years ago, card tricks and just general
card mechanics,
handling cards in cool ways. This guy, he's the genius, or one of them on YouTube, at least. So I started following Chris Ramsey a couple of years ago to learn magic tricks and card tricks. He's a real performer, but yeah, they interviewed him on the Weaponized podcast, and he's got this whole series here on Project Stargate.
Oh, okay.
Well, there's a three-part series on Project Stargate, and it's really well done. And that he interviews McGonagall and what's his name?
Pat Price.
I can't remember now, but yeah, check it out if you want to know more about remote viewing. This is a good series to watch.
Well, here's an interesting thing that I did not know about this whole thing. Uri Geller was involved.
Yes.
Yeah, he was. I didn't know that.
And they talked about.
And he's a magician.
He's a magician. He's a real performer. And like what this guy said, because he's a magician, he started learning about remote viewing, and he was like, well, I'm a magician. I want to know what the trick is. Yeah. This is why I want to get into this subject. I want to understand what their trick is, what the game is. Mm-hmm. And as he's studying, he's realized there is no game. These guys.
Well, okay. Here's my favorite story. Let me just relate this quickly. So we had the Stanford research group, and they were doing their stuff on remote viewing, and the government came to them. The army came to them, in fact, and said, okay, we've heard about you guys. We want to use that for, the military. And they had Ingo Swann and they had Pat Price, two of the best remote viewers. Ingo Swann saw the rings on Saturn before NASA ever got there. One of the most amazing things is documented. People think remote viewing's not real. Well, then what about that? And things that Pat Price and Ingo Swann also did, it's well beyond all that kind of stuff. Anyway, the military came in, and it was Russell Targ, who said, look, I could get Ingo or Pat Price to do this reading and prove to you that, this is worth investing in, and the army's got to do that. But you would say it's a trick because I'm using these two guys. So we're not going to use these two guys. I'll use a major, the major from the army, and then Hal Puthoff and some other dude went out to a hidden location, and this dude who came to do the request, I'm pretty sure it was him or maybe some other army person, not a usual, just some random army guy. who was a high-level army guy. They got him to do the remote viewing of where Hal and whoever this other person was in a secret location with the envelope and all that kind of stuff. And he did it. And they were convinced, and that's how Project Stargate came about.
Yeah. Yeah, I think one of the guys in this, I don't know whether he's a psychiatrist or a psychologist that was working with Stargate and the remote viewing program. He said nine intelligence, or it might have been 18 intelligence agencies started using the service.
Mm-hmm.
And by the end of it, 15 were still using it, or 15 kept coming back every year because they thought it was worth the investment. So yeah, that's pretty big. I mean, that says a lot.
Yeah.
If 15 agencies wouldn't keep coming back and using it and spending their budget on it if they didn't think there was anything to it.
Yeah. And look, on top of that, same thing I was watching anyway, apparently the word on the vine is the NSA absolutely hates remote viewers. The CIA absolutely loves remote viewers. So that's kind of who's looking at secrets elsewhere and trying to keep secrets here. We're talking American centric, obviously, but yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, it's pretty interesting stuff. Obviously, Russia's been doing it and probably is still doing it.
Excuse me.
You wouldn't be surprised if China and other nations.
They would absolutely all have to be doing it.
Yeah. Do you think Australia does it?
No. Look, maybe we're involved in the Five Eyes, and you know what? Again, that's probably something we have to talk about in a whole nother episode, is the Five Eyes intelligence apparatus. We'll just name it America, UK, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand, I think, is it? No, Israel.
Yeah.
So, and I assume New Zealand is probably involved by proxy. There's probably a sixth eye in New Zealand by proxy, because nothing happens in Australia, defense and or intelligence wise, without it happening in New Zealand as well, I'm sure.
Yeah, for sure. So remote viewing seems to be getting talked about a bit again. I don't know if there's any more you wanted to talk about.
Well, look, a couple of interesting points, because I've been looking, I looked a little bit into it. And I heard, I think I was watching Russell Targ and a Richard Dolan interview, and they didn't ever circle back to it, but it kind of blew my mind a little bit. And they casually dropped the information that Werner von Braun was heavily involved in the initiation of the remote viewing program.
Yeah, right.
He's the rocket scientist who they picked. He's the Nazi rocket scientist who they picked up from Project Paperclip, who came into work for NASA.
Yep.
So that kind of blew my mind a little bit.
One of the Nazis that helped build NASA.
Yes,
the top Nazi.
But the head Nazi. Yeah. And the other thing was, and a little point that was made very succinctly in the Cook and Coulthard video we were talking about off camera, is and I just lost my.
Wait, just what?
The Einstein thing. Yeah, so Einstein and his group, the spooky action at a distance.
Yeah.
So as far as how can remote viewing be possible? There are various
quantum entanglement or whatever.
Quantum entanglement, but who knows? Because as I was saying to you before, Donald Hoffman is doing some great work on consciousness and reality, and that materialism may not be the base of reality, and the consciousness may actually be the base of reality. So, yeah, A lot of that stuff, I think, is all intertwined.
Werner von Braun, he actually wrote a book. Yeah, I forget the name of the book. I seen it pop up the other day. I remembered hearing about this a while ago. But he wrote a book about. I'm not even sure how it was written. If it was written like a prophecy or fiction, but it was about the guy that would take Earth to Mars, and his name was Elon. Look it up. I forget that. I forget the name of the book, but I remembered hearing about this book, but I was like, oh, did Werner von Braun write that? I didn't remember it was him. Might just try and find it. Von Braun. The Mars Project? Project Mars? That might be it. Project Mars.
Well, the Nazis apparently were deeply occultish in the higher levels.
Yeah. So I just thought that's interesting that I think that's what it's called, Project Mars. We're talking about Werner von Braun's involvement in remote viewing or being able to see things either in the future or the past seems to be.
And that's the other thing about remote viewing. It's not temporally anchored. You can see future events, it seems.
Yeah. Actually, I haven't finished watching all of that Area 52 Stargate series, but I know coming up in it is, I can't remember which remote viewer did it. It might have been Mechanical. And he tells a story about looking at Mars 1 million years ago.
Yeah, I think that is McMonagall. Yeah.
Yeah. And he talks about a pyramid and some other things. I haven't got to that part yet, but yes.
Well, I mean, and then this is like, okay, so we'll just cap off the remote viewing thing quickly, because there have been some pretty out there predictions, and some of the stuff we've said have been absolutely true. So Ingo Swann and the Rings of Jupiter, Ingo Swann and Pat Price doing Sugar Camp or whatever it is. They were accidentally, basically, they were told to remote view this log cabin in the middle of nowhere. This log cabin happened to be right near a secret hidden military base, also in the middle of nowhere. And when when they asked Pat Price, oh, well, why did you say something about the hidden base when you were told to remote view about the log cabin? He said, when something's hidden and you're remote viewing, it's like a beacon. It draws you to it. And Ingo Swann did they basically did the exact same drawing of the outline of this hidden military camp. And then there's, I can't remember, there's several other names. There was the military guy who was the reason for the Stargate project. There was another lady called Habib or something like that. What's her name? Hella Hamid. And she, did amazing stuff. Pat Price, one of his famous ones was he drew an underwater Russian construction base and gave them the coordinates and said, look there. And they looked there, and that was exactly what they found there. It was a secret Russian underwater submarine construction base, something like that. So there's multiple official records of remote viewing being one, exactly correct.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty hard to guess, some of that stuff.
Yeah. I guess there might be a Russian military base
right about there. And it looks like this.
Yeah.
And look, it could happen, I suppose.
So remote viewing, it being real, would suggest that there maybe is some type of connection between with consciousness and all things strange in that.
Yeah, 100%.
Regard.
What they call high strangeness, but definitely consciousness. I mean, and I think that's the whole point of the thing. If we want to finish off by saying it, all of these phenomena seem to be involved in consciousness somehow. We have a limited understanding of what consciousness is in humanity. Maybe that's why, and maybe this is a good segue. Maybe that's why there's been so much secrecy.
Yeah. And we sort of talked about this last episode, saying, this is going to be pretty tough because we think it's going to be really weird what the truth of everything. And I'm starting to think, I'm starting to really think that we're going to get some type of disclosure very soon, but I think it might be another 50 to 100 year journey to really change our whole way of understanding the world. I mean, how long does it take a species to
I've
learn
said 200
this?
years.
200? You think 200?
200 was my I've for the last 10 years I've said because look, I'll put my cards on the table. I'm a somewhat of an anarchist, and I think we could do without leaders of a sort. But I'm realistic. That's not going to occur at least for the next 200 years. And I think those both things are analogous. It's like we're not going to be emotionally and spiritually mature enough. At least, like if we really hop to and get to it, 200 years.
Yeah.
If not, like if we continue along the way we're continuing on with all the crazy stuff we seem to want to engage in, possibly 500 years. But look, I'm hopeful for humanity. I think we could do it. I think we could do 200. Hell, we could do 150.
Yeah. Well,
yeah. We just have to be empathetic.
Yeah. But it looks like that this the whole UFO
this
phenomena.
Is the beginning. This is
the beginning, and the whole phenomena, which is not just the UFO phenomena, it's all things strange and unexplained in the world, we're going to get a window into that understanding. We're going to be told that there is something real there, and that maybe there is a new way of understanding how reality works, and then from then we've got to ponder what that means, and
we've got to take up the mantle and move forward with it.
Yeah, and I think it's probably going to be a big evolutionary step for humanity to be able to accept this change in understanding consciousness and reality, and new ways of science and new ways of philosophy, and everything together, everything in a holistic.
As you said, I think the evolution, that's a very good way to frame it. It's an evolutionary jump, and it might not be the technical term of something mutating and succeeding because of that mutation. That's not what we mean. We mean more of
it's more of a philosophical
evolution.
Yeah.
That what everyone understands advances a level because we realize we're not alone, or consciousness exists outside physicality.
Yeah. And
I think those things are coming.
Yeah. And then hopefully this journey is 200 years might seem like a long time, but it's not that long. So
it's a blink of an eye.
If we can change that fast into a species that has fully transitioned into accepting their new reality and everything in it, hopefully we can become peaceful and more enlightened, and
or just more in touch with each other. I always thought, I don't know if no one's ever seen The Invention of Lying. It's a great movie, Ricky Gervais.
Ricky
And I always
Gervais,
thought, if you want to look at what utopia is absolute like what aliens have, obviously, because everyone is in telepathic communication with everyone else. So if you have a hive mind, everyone experiences everything that everyone else experiences. So it's absolute truth with everyone else. And it's, I mean, we can try and be analogous to that in the human realm, but I don't know. Maybe the next evolution is a new a star child that can be telepathic with everyone.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's
Who
hard
knows?
to it's hard to know what's coming. But I feel like it's definitely more about this than the nuts and bolts. I think, and this is what I think too. I think this is more evidence of it happening fast. We had David Grush come out, and I feel very with the nuts and bolts type of stories and claims, retrieved crashed craft and bodies and secret programs, but I feel like this consciousness discussion is coming into it more and more very quickly, and it's taking us down this journey really fast. It's like, hey, this is all real, and now you need to start thinking about this aspect of disclosure and what's going to come out. Yeah, it's
Well, and that might be a good segue into going into why the disinformation. Or it's like, we wanted to talk about disinformation. It's like, okay, if there were just people from other planets coming here and studying us, why a huge disinformation campaign? Why not just either keep it hidden and don't talk about it, because it's pretty, they seem to be pretty content on not showing themselves to us, or actually tell us. It's like, yeah, there's seems to be people coming in and looking at us. It's like,
well, yeah. Why? And
why? So
I would,
because it's going to break down materialism. That's
yes.
my guess. That's my guess.
And what does that mean? Describe what you mean by that, breaking down
So it would
materialism.
be, whereas modern science, everything is described in terms of material, atoms, quarks, down to the smallest particle, boson, all of the physical things.
But we do understand that reality is sometimes in a waveform, right? We know that.
Yeah, and then you got the double slit experiment, where I assume everyone would know about the double slit experiment, where the observation changes the outcome. But I think what the double slit experiment hints at is far more pervasive across what reality actually is, rather than material reality. So in classical philosophy, you've sort of got materialists, which believe in atoms and that kind of thing, dualists, which believe in physical stuff like atoms, but also there's a aspect called the mind, which you can't quantify as physical. And then you've got idealists, who basically believe everything is that other thing. Everything is thought, if you will.
Yep.
And this is what I'm thinking is going to be, that's why the disinformation, that's why they're trying to throw people off as much as possible, because I think, this is my guess, pure speculation, that when it comes down to it, reality is actually more based in the idealistic camp of philosophy rather than the materialistic camp of philosophy.
Yeah.
And as I said, and I'll say again, look up Donald Hoffman. Look at what he's doing mathematically with these kind of ideas.
Yeah. What about how do you think that all ties in with the idea of simulation theory?
Oh, well, a really good part of that was in a couple of interviews I just watched recently. But basically, it's simulation theory, but that's real. So, like, yes, you could describe it as simulation theory, but that's just how the universe works. It's not a simulation. It's God's simulation. I mean, that's a very poor, obtuse version of how to say it, but it's and that's why I always defer to I can't remember if it's Hindu or Buddhist, but it's the Maya, where this is just God's dream, basically. So reality is God's dream, but it's it's the supreme consciousness trying to experience itself subjectively.
Yeah.
It's the Bill Hicks thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
It always seems to come back to that.
Yeah, it does for me. I think those ideas always, to me, support the idea of some type of simulation theory. Is that,
you could almost call it the natural simulation.
We're all connected. We're all part of the same computer or program. We're all stored. Time doesn't exist. It's all just information.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's not like it's an alien race who have got a computer and they're creating this huge reality. That's just how reality is. That's the nature of reality, and we're all projecting a consciousness into that.
Another, you asked why about disinformation. You're like, why would they do this? And destruction of materialism is a thought. And I came across another tweet the other day. I was thinking, I don't know the right context to bring this up, but I think this is, and it's this guy on Twitter, the one, he's got some comments from Tom DeLonge here. Okay. Tom DeLonge and Rudolf Steiner on parasitic NHIs. So the idea of, she's granted, DeLonge, these creatures potentially don't have souls. They're like clones. They worship their own technology to some degree, but they feed off fear and negativity. The one thing they cannot stand is the frequency of elevated human consciousness. These beings are this is Steiner. These beings are hostile towards humanity. Everything that feeds on negative feelings or anxiety, fear, and superstition, despair, or doubt are in reality hostile forces in supersensible worlds, launching cruel attacks on human beings while they are being fed. Could it be that disinformation is there to try and keep us in a state we're already under control, maybe?
Yeah. Well, look, this is, and I actually am glad you brought this up, because this is a very common, not very common, but this is a theme that's coming up more and more about the NHI, interdimensional. And actually, I wanted to bring this up before when we were talking, but okay, I've got it here. I don't know if you've heard of page 9. There was a DOD memo.
Slide 9?
Yeah, slide 9. Sorry, slide 9.
Yeah. I actually was looking at this morning.
Yeah, and then it's completely relevant. So, and I mean, I've got it in front of me. I don't know. Have you got?
Yeah, I've got it. I've got it on my phone, not on.
All right. Well, I've got it here, and I'll just read off some. I'll read it up.
Can you share it? Can you share me the link?
All right.
I'll bring it up.
Well, it's on the Ross and Nick Cook interview, and the timestamp is 13:26.
All right, and I'll find it. But start talking, yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, supposedly, information has been passed around the UAP and intelligence agencies regarding how to deal, apparently, with these sort of adversaries, where they can manipulate thought, and they can manipulate space-time. Well, you just have to read it, because I'm doing a poor version.
It's at 13 minutes, isn't it?
13:26. I
know, because I'm memorized this yesterday. Because I'm like, I've got to come back to that, because I've heard him talk about slide 9 a few times.
Yeah.
But I hadn't seen it, because I don't have his book. I listening to it I started listening to it on wrong screen. I started listening to it on what's the audio book thing?
Oh, yeah, I know what you're talking about, but I don't remember. Audible.
That's it.
Sponsor
Audible.
us.
Get your Audible subscription today. That's slide 9, yeah?
Yes, that's it.
Do you want to read it?
You go.
All
You're
right.
the reader.
What's it say? So this was from a DoD document. I don't know where exactly this came from.
I think this is an internal intelligence agency document of the people who had to deal with this kind of thing.
Yeah.
And the language is very, very interesting, because nowhere does it say anything really saying alien or extraterrestrial. There's none of that language in this.
And the science exists for an enemy. So it's
an enemy.
It's not saying there is an enemy. It's not saying there is an enemy that has this technology. It's saying the science exists for, so they're aware of this science. That's what they're saying.
Mm-hmm.
They're aware, we're aware of it. So it means that other people could be aware of it too, or other entities.
Well, also, it also means that they're aware of it. They're subject to it. They don't necessarily know how it works, but they know it's being used against them.
So I'll read it then.
To me. Yeah.
Yeah. The science exists for an enemy of the United States to manipulate both physical and cognitive environments in order to penetrate US facilities, influence decision makers, and compromise national security. Influence decision makers.
Mm-hmm.
That's huge.
Yeah. That's very serious.
And it says, bullet points here: psychotronic weapons, cognitive human interface, penetration of solid surfaces.
That's where we get next level, because the first two I can see that humans doing. The third point there, that's some interdimensional stuff.
Yeah. Instantaneous sensor disassembly.
That one kind of blew my mind a little bit. So you've got a sensor.
It's not like sensor deactivation. It's sensor.
No, it's disassembly. That's specific language.
Alteration or manipulation of biological organisms. Yeah. Anomalies in the space-time construct.
That we can't do.
So that's projecting anomalies into the space-time construct, into space.
I feel like that's probably more time manipulation.
Or
warping of space-time, that kind of thing.
Yep. And unique cognitive human interface experiences. Is this like putting someone in a trance or something?
Yeah. I think that's some kind of psychogenic human thing that they'd be able to do.
But the DoD advantages are DoD has been involved in similar experiments.
First one, that's my favorite point. That's my absolute favorite point of this whole thing is all of these little topics that we've delved into here. have been experimented in with the DoD. That's not surprising to me at all.
Yeah. DoD has relationships with renowned subject matter experts.
Absolutely. Already know that. No, well, I mean, look, everyone throws shade on Stephen Greer, but let's take him as an example. He's absolutely had briefings with DoD. He probably told them about CE5. They may have actually been able to do it.
But subject matter being penetrating solid surfaces, like,
well,
do we have experts in?
Yeah, well, look,
let's
look at the remote viewers. Oh, if you're talking physically, I mean, you hear stories, but who knows? Who knows who's out there? Maybe some crazy Shaolin monk can walk through walls.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember. I seen a movie recently. It's someone was a superhero. It was the Flash. It was the Flash. He could vibrate really, really quickly and move through walls.
Absolutely, you can.
That was a good movie too.
That's old school Flash.
And DoD controls several facilities where activities have been detected. Oh, okay, like Skinwalker Ranch.
Took the words right out of my mouth.
Yeah. So
things like Skinwalker, I'm sure there's a dozen of them.
Yeah, no doubt.
Points all over the world. And look, as I said, I wouldn't be surprised if Pine Gap is something like that.
Possibly. Why do they go to places like Skinwalker Ranch, set up for a few years and then move on? Do you think they're like, I don't know. There's something going on here. We can't work it out.
Maybe they go in as like, look, we're professional scientists. All these chumps before us, we're professional scientists. We're going to go in there and we're going to sort it out. And then they spend 2 years and they're like, I don't know. Yeah, it's beyond me. And then they get out of there because they realize it's a lost cause and they're just chasing their tails the whole time. And then a new team goes, well, those guys are a bunch of chumps. We'll go in there and we'll sort it out. We'll use science. And then they go in there and it's like, oh, they're chasing their tails for 2 years. I was like, it's the nature of the phenomena. I think it's actually in that video we've both been talking about recently with Ross and Nick Cook. They get into it where the worst environment to study UFOs is a military environment where everything's about secrecy, everything's shut down. There's going to be no open souls. This is a very woo thing to say, but there's going to be no openness, no open souls, no open consciousnesses in there.
Yeah.
And that's what you need to study this phenomenon because that's what it's tied to. And the military and secrecy complex is the least conducive environment to study that kind of stuff.
It's almost like we all need to agree on, not agree, but we all need to be on the journey together as a species.
Yeah, 100%.
To get to work it out. And it's not maybe there is that element of, I don't know, it's hard to know, but maybe there is the element of, it can't be, if you're looking to exploit it, you're not going to be able to do that. That's not how it works. Being able to understand this and learn more about it and grow through it.
Yeah.
It's not an exploitable experience. You can't manufacture it. You can't bottle it up and profit from it.
Yeah.
It's not like anything.
It's like looking at the double slit experiment. It'll know. If you're looking at it properly, it'll know you're looking at it. If you're not looking at it, it'll know you're not looking at it. And I feel like that's where you take from the very small and extrapolate out to the very large. That's where it's at. It's like, it's all related.
You mentioned hive mind before, and maybe it's part of it is awakening our hive mind as a species.
I think that's people people recoil from that. So you call it the
Well,
group mind.
it's a scary
Yeah,
hive mind
it
is a
is.
scary. It's like I don't want anyone in my
Yeah,
mind.
you want to retain your individuality, and
Yeah.
I think every human does want to do that. But I think that is retained, but as well as on top of a universal understanding on top of everything else.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And fear is only going to hold us back. I
Yeah.
think it's a natural human experience, right? To say something like, let's all get on the path to hive mind. People are like, I don't want to go down that path.
Yeah.
That's probably what's naturally going to happen too, and that'll be that journey of 200 years or however
Or
long it
500
takes.
years or 1,000. Yeah, and honestly, I think that might actually involve some kind of telepathic awakening or something akin to that, even if it's technological. Imagine if everyone could be, and see, that's how would you, that's where privacy really becomes an issue. Is like, how would you have your own private thoughts if everyone has access to your thoughts 24 hours a day?
Yeah.
Like, do you have private thoughts? Is that gone now? Is that a mode of the past, and now everyone knows everything about everyone else? Because that would be a kind of utopia.
Oh, it could be
But
nightmare.
maybe not a human utopia, but it would be a kind of utopia.
Yeah. I think it's not something that we can understand. We can understand and look at it and go, that's where we're going and that's what we want to be. I think it's a big journey. Yeah, but I think it's highly likely that this is probably the biggest part of it.
Well, I think I feel like, well, I mean, and look, every generation felt like this, right? But I feel like this is where it might begin. I guess everyone thought this was the end, but this is where it might begin.
Yeah. This is the beginning, and yeah, it's. I think what will happen will be an acknowledgement of the phenomena, and then a change in scientific the change of the scientific understanding of reality, and that's where
I think that's the biggest hurdle.
Yeah,
and I think that's the biggest hurdle. And once we kick, and I tell you what, we won't even jump that hurdle. We'll kick that hurdle down and we'll walk over it, because it's going to be nothing like what materialist science thinks it's going to be.
Yeah.
That's well, yeah, and look, it's my prediction.
Yeah.
But I'm crazy, so
we're all crazy.
That's it.
This reminds me of Seal. I haven't got that queued up. Sorry.
Oh, that should be our new theme song.
Yes.
You write him a letter.
I seen Seal live. I seen Seal live at the what's the in Perth, the gardens, the Royal Garden, Queen's Gardens or whatever. The park up on top of the hill over the city. Kings Park.
Oh, he played there.
Yeah, he played it in there's some gardens there.
Was it an amphitheater sort of thing?
It's just a set up stage.
I know exactly where he would have played. Yep.
Yeah, it's good.
It's Seal.
I had a dance. Yeah.
Well, let's see if we can get him on. We'll interview Seal about UFOs.
Our first guest is Seal,
international recording artist. Seal.
That's how we do it. Oh,
well. Although we should try and get some Aussie. We've talked about the guy who made the Westall video, Westall documentary. We would like to try and get some guests on at some point.
We're building to it.
Once we get our S together. But yeah. All right. Anything else?
No, I think that's it. I think we can wrap up episode 3.
Done pretty well.
Yeah, it's a good chat. It's always good. Yeah, I'm excited. Let's see what's next.
Yeah, and shout out again to disclosurediaries.com if you want to follow along. That seems like a pretty good place to do.
Oh yeah, here I'm going to post that in the.
Corey and I are going to try and do show notes within the next 2 or 3 shows. We'll try and do that. So in the comments, we'll post what we've talked about. Also, send us questions.
Questions, tips. I've got shirts coming, Lem.
Oh, shirts! I'll have a shirt.
Beyond our friend Jake. Jake used to work with us in Derrimut in Melbourne.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
yeah.
Good,
he's
good guy.
He prints shirts now that's his job. That's his business. And I've got a design to him, and he's sending me a shirt, and we'll be able to put those up on YouTube for sale.
All right.
So
get me one of those shirts. I want one of those shirts.
Yeah. All right.
Easy.
Cool, Lam.
All right, man. We'll do this again in 2 weeks.
Yep. Catch you all later. Leave a like, people.
Yep. Thanks for listening.
Subscribe.
Like, subscribe.
Yeah.
All right. See you later, guys. Cheers.